It's a great pleasure to be able to talk to Lindsey Vonn right now, a professional skier, retired, but yeah, one of the all-time greats. Thanks so much for your time, Lindsey.
No problem. Happy to help.
So where am I reaching you now? Where are you based at the moment?
I'm actually in New York City. I was doing some stuff, commentating on ski racing with NBC. So just here for a little bit and then back to Utah soon.
And did you have fun commentating for the probably first time?
Yeah, it was my first time. I actually really enjoyed it. It was fun to see a race live again, even though it was at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, just to talk about my former competitors and my teammates. It was just nice to kind of be back in the sport again a little bit.
And how is daily life in New York at the moment?
There's not a lot of people around. I mean, the city's kind of empty, which is nice. There's no traffic, but yeah, life is definitely different here in the city. And, obviously around the country, it kind of varies from state to state and city to city. But New York is definitely on a pretty heavy lockdown right now.
Of course, I want to talk about skiing, and there are a lot of challenges at the moment we feel, especially with skiing. I mean, we have climate change. We also have, it's financially difficult to become a professional skier. There are many injuries, especially in the professional world, and also, the image in Austria, considering skiing, is a bit damaged since the start of the Corona pandemic. So let me ask you this in a dramatic way. Do you think it is too late to save skiing, the future of skiing?
I think honestly, skiing is one of the few sports that, it's outdoors. And so I think with the pandemic, it's one of the safer sports. But, it's not the athlete's decision whether the races are happening or not. Of course, every athlete and everyone that has a job wants to be doing their jobs right now. But, I think everyone that has the opportunity to compete and to be doing what they love to do, they're going to take that opportunity. So, I think, for the future, I'm not really sure. I think a lot of sports right now are struggling, no fans, no attendance. And I think some of the viewership numbers are down. So I'm not sure, honestly, for ski racing or for other sports in the world, what the future looks like.
And are the ski resorts open at the moment in the US?
Yeah, there are quite a few. I mean, the only difference is you have to make a reservation at some of the resorts. It kind of depends on what state you're in. But in Utah, I can ski at Deer Valley and it's no problem. They make you wear a mask and go on your own chairlift. But otherwise, there's not a lot of people skiing. But so for me, I like it because the mountain is relatively empty, at least in Utah. But yeah, I mean, again, I think it's one of the few sports that, you're already outside. So usually I cover my mouth anyways. You can be outside and it's a little bit, I think, safer than other things that you could be doing right now.
Skiing in winter in Austria is a huge thing. How about the US? Can you fill us in? What is the standing or the image of skiing in the US?
Honestly, obviously I love ski racing and I love watching it. When you watch it on TV, you don't know that there's no fans there. But sports in general are just different right now. I think people's focus is more on, their health and less on sports and entertainment. So, I think things are definitely different than they normally are, obviously. But in the US, we generally watch the Olympics. Americans aren't incredibly tuned into the World Cup like they are in Europe. So I think it's a little bit different. And especially more so now because of the pandemic.
So you're almost 2 years away from professional skiing now. What do you think about the development of professional skiing within the last few years? What went great and what could become better?
I think we're missing right now our big stars. Marcel Hirscher is gone, Axel's gone, Bodie's gone. We need a few more stars. I mean, obviously Mikayla is there and Sophia Goja now, but the men, it's always changing. There's not one or two people that are really leading the way. And I think when you have stars like that, it helps for advertising and for promoting the sport. And I think one thing that could really help ski racing is to really market it more. It needs to be more of a youthful vibe and, get more young people involved in the sport. I think especially in the US, I don't think we have nearly as many racers as we used to have. And I think if we really pushed hard on the advertising and marketing of the sport, it could help for the future.
So you see that there's still a few steps to go considering promoting the ski racing community?
Yeah, and I mean, Johan Elias, he's actually trying to be the new president of FIS, and he has a lot of really good marketing ideas and strategies on how we can make the sport more accessible and more youthful and more fun. I think that's really the direction we need to go in, because it's, again, in the US, it's such a big market, but it's really not advertised well. No one really can see the sport. And if we utilize markets like that, like the US, I think we can have a lot more success and again, gain a lot of followers, but also a lot more people getting involved in the sport.
What do you make of all these heavy injuries, especially from a lot of big names currently in the World Cup?
Yeah, I think in every sport, athletes haven't had the same preparation, obviously, as they normally have because of the pandemic, and especially ski racing because, a lot of pretty much everywhere was closed. I know that, a lot of people couldn't go to the places they normally go to train in the summer. Normally they go to, South America and New Zealand, and no one was able to go down there this year. So training was very limited. And, when you're training on a glacier and then, you try to raise Kitzbühel, it's quite a different situation. So the injuries are, unfortunately, from my perspective, a little bit predictable. But the same thing is happening in pretty much every other sport as well. I mean, football, you're seeing the same thing. So I think, all athletes are just struggling to get the preparation in that they need to be able to compete at a high level.
I don't need to remind yourself that you yourself had a lot of injuries. And you once said that some of those injuries could have been prevented. Do you still think that? And do you also think that those injuries that are currently appearing could also have been prevented?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my first major injury was in Schladming at the World Championships, and I still believe those conditions were not acceptable to be racing in, especially the way they delayed the race until extremely late in the afternoon, and again, course conditions just were not acceptable. I think FIS and the World Cup is oftentimes put in a difficult position because monetarily, we don't have the luxury of delaying races all the time. And so I understand their position, but if all of the top athletes get injured, then we won't have a sport anyways. So I think, more consideration for the athlete safety needs to be priority.
Are you still sort of sad that you had to end your career at the age of 34? Or did you check it in your head, so to say?
No, I mean, of course I'm disappointed. I still feel like I can win and compete, but physically, I just can't. So I have accepted that. But, I would have loved to keep racing. I would have loved to try to beat Ingemar's record. But, that's my reality, and I've moved on, and, and I'm still, a part of ski racing, just being, commentating and, talking to my teammates and former competitors. So I like being involved in the sport, but I realize that, my career is definitely over.
I was wondering, are you still in pain in your everyday life from all those injuries?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have quite a bit of knee pain most days. I've tried to find a good workout program that I can kind of maintain the muscles that I need to make my knee a little bit more stable, which is why I'm still training hard, because I kind of have to. I found that if I don't work hard, my knee I have a lot more pain in my knee. So just trying to find the balance in my life. And I think, probably in the next 5 years, I'll need a knee replacement, because I do love, still being active and being outside, and I love skiing still. So I'd like to be able to do those things, but obviously have to manage the pain as well.
Another topic I want to talk about is the finances of a professional skiing career, because in Austria, skiing gets more and more expensive. I mean, I don't need to tell you this, because in the US, it's even more expensive. So how has this changed over the years? Is it becoming more and more of an elite sport?
Yeah, I think it is. Unfortunately, a lot of people now are also going more into, individual teams, not really doing the ski academy, but private training. They feel like that's what they need to be successful. And so you're seeing a lot of kids not being able to make it because they just don't have the money to be able to do things like that. And, when you look at, people that don't have the money, they say, well, why am I putting so much time and effort into this if I'm always at a disadvantage? So I think in the US, we've seen that for a while now. And, it's, again, like, as you said, ski racing in the US is much more expensive than it is in Europe. Even just a ski pass is incredibly expensive. So that's one thing that's really inhibiting us from getting more racers involved in the US. I don't foresee that changing in the future, but I think there needs to be some sort of work done on a developmental level to be able to allow ski racing to be more accessible in the US and internationally as well.
Another side of this whole topic is that it also gets more and more expensive to organize ski races. Are you afraid that there will be less and less downhill races in the future? Because I think downhills are the most expensive. You have to prepare the whole track.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think downhill I think it's the most exciting event to watch, but unfortunately is the most expensive. And, you can't cut corners, you can't not prepare the hill perfectly. You can't, cut on safety. And so ultimately, I think, if you look financially, it seems like that's the best place to, make changes. But at the same time, I'm not sure if there's a solution to maybe having multiple races in the same venue, limit the amount of stops on the World Cup. I think there are things that can be done to consolidate. And also, I think men and women should race together more often. I think that's one thing that would really draw a lot of people to watch, a lot more excitement. And, once fans can come back, that'll be the best race to go to, is when the men and women are racing together.
You also have a Lindsey Vonn Foundation where you try to develop also young up and coming athletes, I believe. Is that true? Can you describe what you're doing in the foundation?
Well, so we have educational based scholarships and sports based scholarships. We have kind of two different tiers. I've helped a lot of athletes too personally, like Jackie Wiles and Alice Robinson. So I was happy to be able to, contribute to their road to success on the World Cup. But, right now it's obviously been very difficult with the pandemic. We're struggling to, raise money, I think, as most people are. And so we're trying to, but again, this is like the most important time to be able to have these scholarships, because there are a lot of kids whose parents have lost their jobs. A few of our scholarship recipients are now homeless. And so we're just trying to help them get accessibility to education and, whatever sports are available, we're trying to help them do that as well. And we used to have camps where we actually had the girls come for the weekend, and we, went over a bunch of different topics like self-esteem and friendship and teamwork. And unfortunately with the pandemic, we can't do that anymore. So hopefully things turn around, because, I love those programs, and I really think we're doing good work.
Good stuff. Yeah. Even the Women's World Cup is actually dominated by a lot of men. I mean, I'm thinking about the the staff members. I'm thinking about the coaches, the guys who prepare the skis. And that can be quite toxic for a professional female athlete. And you also talked about this during your active career, and it didn't really go too well with a few people. Is that something you want to work against with your foundation as well, or did this change at all?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is giving women the opportunity, giving girls the opportunity. I think there are opportunities in ski racing to be, you know, coaches or to be involved in the World Cup. But I honestly don't think there's a lot of interest. I think that's the difference. But as long as they're given the opportunity, that's the most important thing. And that is something that I'm working with my foundation, is just helping get that accessibility and that opportunity. But again, you know, there also has to be an interest. If no one wants to do the job, then it doesn't really matter.
So why is there no interest, do you think?
I mean, ski racing is a hard sport to be, you know, to be involved in. From a coaching perspective, you know, you're out on the mountain all day, every day. You're carrying gates, you're carrying equipment, you know, you're managing a whole team. There's a lot that goes into it. And, you know, the salaries are usually not great. So you know, unless you really love the sport, you're probably not going to want to be a coach.
Would you have wished that there would be more female coaches during your active career?
I had a few when I was racing for Ski Club Vail. There were a few women that were my coaches. You know, for me, you know, it really didn't matter if they were male or female. I just wanted to be better. So I never really felt like, you know, I wasn't represented in the sport because of my coaching staff. I actually thought I had amazing coaches and was always grateful for their help.
It is also an incredibly white sport. I know that you raised your voice for the Black Lives Matter movement. Why do you think ski racing is such a white sport and non-diverse?
It's just not accessible. It's just not accessible. I mean, it's so expensive. You know, it's a very expensive sport. And so for so many people of any color, it's just not accessible. There's, you know, some good programs that are going on. Winter for Kids in New Jersey is really great. They have a great program that takes kids from a few underprivileged schools and brings them to the mountains and gives them equipment and opportunity. So there are things that are happening. But, you know, again, when you look at the cost of ski racing, is it more important to give them opportunity in education or in ski racing? And I think everyone would really most likely say education. So, you know, I think you have to weigh, you know, is it a priority to get, you know, everybody involved in skiing? Probably not. It's a priority, you know, to have equal opportunity in everything. But I mean, yeah, again, as I said, ski racing is such an elite sport, and it's hard to make that accessible to most people. I mean, I know my family could barely afford it, and, you know, both my parents are attorneys. So, you know, it's unfortunately one of the realities of the sport.
The Austrian Skiing Federation is such a huge player in this whole ski racing community. But I was wondering, what is the image, or how is the Austrian Skiing Federation perceived from someone on the outside?
I have to be careful what I say here. You know, I have always gotten along well with most people on the Austrian Federation. I have definitely been criticized by quite a few people within the organization over the course of my career. I can't say they really love women's ski racing very much, but you know, obviously they're a powerhouse in the sport across all disciplines and all genders. So, you know, you have to give them the respect in that. But I think they could do more to help the sport and really make it more youthful and more accessible. And you know, it needs to kind of have, I think most federations honestly need to have fresh faces, and we need to really turn the page and make the sport more fun. And so I'm not just singling out Austria, but it's just a general trend.
Now with the skiing championships, with the worlds coming up, I was wondering which skier impressed you the most within the last few weeks, months in this season?
I think Sofia Goggia has really impressed me the most. I mean, her consistency and the way she skis. I mean, she's kind of like me. I feel like we're very similar. She goes 110% every time, and she's either winning or she's having a spectacular crash. And I like that. You know, I like seeing people pushing the limits, and I like her energy and her attitude that she brings to the sport. I think it's really needed. You know, you need people like that to, you know, bring new eyeballs to the sport and bring new fans, and she's definitely drawing people in. So I'm impressed with everything she's doing on and off the slopes.
What did you make of the performances by Mikayla Shiffrin in this season so far?
Yeah, I mean, you know, she's still the best. You know, there's no question about it. And you know, I think every athlete has ebbs and flows where, you know, they're on a really hot streak or maybe cooling off a little bit, and she's still absolutely the best, and she can win at any time. And she never lost anything. You know, it's just, you know, that happens in sports, and especially if you think about everything that's happened, you know, with her father and the pandemic. You know, it's all very understandable and relatable. So hopefully, you know, I think she's going to do amazing things at the World Championships, and, you know, there's no doubt that she's going to continue winning.
One last question, Lindsey, when was the last time you went skiing?
I went skiing about 10 days ago in Utah before I came here to New York. So I was skiing with a bunch of friends, and I'm excited to get back because it just snowed a lot. So I want to get some powder skiing in.
Sounds great. Have fun, and thanks so much, Lindsey, for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate the time.
Great. It was great. Thanks, Lindsey. All the best.
No problem.
Health, and hope to see you soon, maybe.
Thank you. Sounds good. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.